Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome in. Sunday must be Husker Rewind, and it is. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. My mom has been gone for a long time. I miss her. I know yours passed away this year. Mike, I'm feeling for you right now. I know it's been a tough year for you.
Life happens. And
we're getting older, and that's what happens when you get a little older. People pass on, and in fact, I noticed this as I get older. I see friends more and more at funerals.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that happens when you get a little bit older. But happy Mother's Day! I don't want to be a downer. I want to be celebrating moms today. My wife is a mother of two, and so happy Mother's Day to Heidi.
Yeah, big happy Mother's Day to my daughter Skylar. And
there's a cake. Somebody brought a cake today for Mother's Day, and I guess they didn't realize that nobody would be here except for us. So we get to keep the cake if we want it.
I think I'm going to nominate that we give it to Rebecca.
Okay.
Because she'll be into
what will happen if you
give me.
You know what will happen if we give it to Rebecca?
She'll throw it at us.
No, DP will eat it. They happen to be married. DP will just eat it when they get home, but that's okay. Rebecca weighs maybe 90 pounds.
Yeah.
So I don't know that she eats. Maybe she does. I've just never seen it. Should we get to the starting gate?
Yeah,
we might as well. Run down. It's a busy show today, and we'll tell you what's on it. But right now, these are some of the things on the show during the starting gate. Do you like the sounder still of the starting gate?
I do, because I love horse racing.
Because a lot of people don't know what it means. It's just the start of the show, so it's the starting gate, and we like to have a lot of things on the show, and Mike demonstrates with the starting gate.
Husker baseball sits at 29, 20, and 1, 13 and 8 in the Big Ten after sweeping Penn State this weekend at Haymarket Park. They win on Friday 19-5, 5-2 yesterday, 8-5 today. Huskers sit somewhere between 3rd and 6th right now. They're in like a 3-way tie with a couple of games yet. Bottom line is Rutgers shut out Illinois earlier today, which guarantees the Huskers a trip to Omaha for the Big Ten tournament. Right. They are 2 games out of first place at 13 and 8. So there is a possibility Nebraska could be any one of the 8 seeds in next weekend's Big Ten tournament. They've got 3 more games in the regular season. Those are next weekend at Purdue. Also today, Nebraska hit their 90th home run of the season, and that gets them within 3 of the all-time school record of 93 done back in 1985, the year I graduated high school. You've got Bryce Matthews was 20, Max Anderson 19, Gabe Swanson 16, and then just a bevy of guys was Josh Caron's got 7, and then 5, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4, 2. And it's just,
could you imagine if they had pitching?
If they had pitching,
if they had pitching this year, that would be a really good baseball team. They're still pretty good, and who knows? I mean, they've got a chance. They've got it. So you're saying there's a chance they're going to be in Omaha? It looks like more and more. They're going to make
it's done. They're in.
They're in. It's automatic.
Yep,
okay,
automatic. They are in. They cannot get past for 8th.
Okay. I didn't know that was official.
It
on the
literally
standings.
Just earlier today, Rutgers shut out Illinois. That eliminated Illinois.
Well, that's why we have you on the show, Mike, so you can tell me that I'm a knucklehead and that I need to pay attention when you say
just happened.
Okay.
Nebraska softball sits at 34 and 20 after the Big Ten tournament. They lost at Northwestern 8-zip in the semifinals. They wait to hear if they're going to be selected for a regional berth. I'm going to say it's probably 51-49 on the not side, but anything could happen. The field is actually going to be announced here in about 56 minutes. So we'll know before the end of the show whether Nebraska softball is going to be headed to a regional. Men's and women's track and field teams had big leads going into the final day of competition in the Big Ten outdoor meet today. Justin St. Clair and his staff have done an amazing job this season. The men wind up winning the Big Ten Conference Outdoor Track Championship. The women wound up 3rd, but just a spectacular finish for the men's and women's team.
Isn't it weird saying the name Justin Sinclair and not Gary Pepin?
It is. It is.
I mean, I still think he's the coach, even though he's not the coach.
Yep. And gosh, all the hundreds of conference and national just crazy what Pepin did here. NCAA outdoor championships in track are set for June 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th in one of my favorite towns to go hang out for a weekend in, Austin, Texas. Don't like the school that's there, but that is a
6th
fun
Street or
town.
5th Street? What,
6th Street.
6th Street. Yeah, I've been on there. I've been on 6th Street a few times. Walked into a bar on 6th Street. Earl Campbell is there playing pool at like midnight. And so we had a conversation with Earl Campbell, the great Texas running back and Hall of Famer in the NFL, of course, for like an hour. He was great. He was awesome.
I never
he was
met
awesome
anybody,
in Austin.
I never met anybody famous when I was down there, but I can tell you that I had some interesting times in some of the bars.
Yeah, well, there you did. If you were on 6th Street, then you had a fun time.
Yeah, absolutely. Husker Hoops is looking to possibly add a late high school piece to the 2023 recruiting class. On Friday, they hosted 6'8", 230-pound Amili Yalaho from Western Reserve Academy in Hudson, Ohio. That's the same school where Oleg Kojenets went. Obviously, Oleg transferred out. I think he's up at Wyoming? I think is where
Wyoming.
he went.
That's right, Wyoming.
Yeah, so he went to Wyoming. Yalaho averaged 8.4 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists last season. He visited North Texas a while ago, and then he went to Lubbock and visited Texas Tech yesterday. So no word on a commitment from him yet, but Nebraska's at least in the mix. He got an official visit, and obviously he's going to have to. Would that excite
you if he committed? Because I guess I'm still looking for one more piece in the portal.
I completely agree. Would it excite me for next year? No, I don't know that he's going to be a guy that he may just redshirt.
He would be a redshirt candidate.
But he's also a guy that's 6'8", 230, so he's pretty well put together.
Yeah.
If he redshirts, or even if he just comes in and hits the weights, all that. He may be 6'8", 6'9", and 245-ish heading into either a redshirt freshman year or sophomore year. This is a guy that's going to come in as a freshman. I mean, he's not going to come in and play and start, but he's a guy that's going to come in. Maybe he does give you 6 to 10 minutes a game. I don't know. The backcourt has got some depth there with Blaze and Josiah Alec now coming in. But from a long-term standpoint, yeah, I would really like the Yalaho addition if he does commit to Nebraska.
Fair enough.
In the NHL playoffs, second round, the Dallas Stars and Seattle Kraken tied at 3 games apiece. Game 7 is tonight. Vegas and Edmonton face off in Game 6 in Edmonton. And the Golden Knights lead that series 3-2. That's in the West. In the East, the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes have both advanced to the conference finals in the NHL playoffs. And
the Celtics won. They won Game 7. I can't remember.
Now over?
Yeah, it's complete. Jason Tatum had himself a day, 50-plus points. And Philadelphia has to be kicking themselves because they had what looked to be the series wrapped up in Game 6. They had the lead. They were on their home floor. And then somebody forgot to tell Jason Tatum because he went off for 18 points in the fourth quarter. They win that game, and then he comes back for 50-plus today. It might have been right at 50. He was insanely hot. So the Celtics move on when I thought the Sixers really were going to win that series.
And they're going to take on Miami, the 8 seed, who surprises everybody to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. In the West, 7 seed Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James are going to take on the Joker and his forearm shivering to opposing team owners, self, and the Denver Nuggets.
I like the Joker, though. I like watching, and it would be a great story. Denver was the best team in the West this year, and now they're playing like the best team in the West. And now the Lakers, who we all thought were dead, barely made. I think there was a time where they were given a 3% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they had to go
scramble to a 7 seed, have to go through the play-in game,
right? And now they look to be. Well, obviously they're still in it, so they have a chance.
Well, they took Golden State out in 6. So, side note, weird story, and it's one of those where unbelievable athletic ability and gifts that you have don't necessarily translate to common sense and intelligent. The Memphis Grizzlies' Ja Morant is proving this. He has been suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies after an Instagram live video surfaced showing Morant holding what appears to be a gun in his left hand as he's sitting in a car. This is after he was suspended for 8 games in March for having a gun while at a Denver nightclub when the Grizzlies were in town to play the Nuggets. Adam Silver called Morant's conduct at the time irresponsible, reckless, and potentially very dangerous. Shortly afterward, Morant said that he realizes what he has to lose and, quote unquote, he's going to be more responsible, more smarter, and staying
more
away.
Smarter.
He's going to be, this is his quote, he's going to be more responsible, more smarter, and staying away from all the bad decisions.
Well, good luck with that.
He's failing.
Yeah, I understand being famous and having a lot of money and jewelry and stuff. Then you might want to some guys carry a gun. But this seems a little silly.
Yeah.
This seems a lot silly.
If we weren't there, we don't know. But I mean, why? That's where you have guys that have guns.
Right. You get a bodyguard.
If you need, you get a bodyguard. You have enough money.
Yeah.
And then on this show, on this radio station, on Wednesday, on Old School, former Nebraska Cornhusker, everything DB. He could cover like a corner. He could hit like a linebacker. He could rush like a D end. JoJo Domann had some interesting comments on Old School, and two specific. I'm going to break out 5 total words. Leading with authenticity was something that he would have expected that did not happen under Scott Frost. And he mentions not being genuine. And we're going to have the clip. If you want to play it now, we can talk about it now.
You want to play it now and then play it again?
Either that, or we can talk about it a little bit later on. But
I think peculiar. We'll save it for later on this hour. But you're right. It's not good stuff, because I don't like necessarily rehashing the Scott Frost era. We know it didn't work. And whether he led with authenticity or not, I just think he was not the right fit for Nebraska. And we all thought he was a home run hire.
Yeah.
But when JoJo says something like that, it means something, because he had a lot of respect from a lot of fans. So we'll definitely play that clip. We'll make it in the second break of this hour. A little bit later on, we do have to get to Lance Harvell. Big sweep for Nebraska baseball this weekend.
Yeah.
As you mentioned at the top of the starting gate, they've locked up a spot in Omaha, and probably the only way they're going to get to any sort of regional is to win the whole damn thing, or at least get to the very final game. But I think they'll probably have to win the whole thing.
They're going to have to win the whole thing. They're RPI and the numbers just aren't good.
It's just too bad they didn't get more pitching this year. And we'll talk to Lance about the weekend. We love talking to Lance Harvell. They could have gotten swept this weekend, and we would talk to Lance Harvell.
I could talk to Lance Harvell about quilting, because he's so
put that on the list of things. Quilting will be the second question asked to Lance Harvell. So he's great. We'll talk to Lance. We'll do the JoJo Domann comments a little bit later on this hour. Then next hour, Jim White, a Nebraska Hall of Famer when it comes to golf, has played in a bunch of senior PGAs. He's played in U.S. Opens. He's a Hall of Famer. And he's also played Oak Hills Country Club, where they're playing next weekend, the PGA Championship. He played in the senior PGA at Oak Hills, and he says it's an absolute brutal test of golf. So we'll talk a little golf with Jim White a little bit later on. I do want to hit on this, and maybe we'll bring it up for another 7 minutes or so, because it gave me some joy when I saw earlier this week that Arthur Kaluma was moving on from Creighton. Creighton is struggling. Arthur Kaluma is going to take a peek at the NBA draft. I think he has until May 31st.
I believe so.
And that would be the same for Keisei Tamanaga.
Yep.
He has until May 31st. You can't be still in the draft on June 1st. Otherwise, you're not coming back to your school. So Kaluma's in the portal.
Yeah, if he chooses to not go and stay in the draft, he's leaving Creighton.
Yeah.
That's the end all.
Yeah.
So.
And now you look at what's happened to Creighton basketball. It's not good at all. Not only Arthur Kaluma, of course, 1,700 players are in the portal again. I wonder why so many guys jump in the portal, but it's been a big problem, I think, for college football and college basketball. But you had Ryan Nembhard jump in the portal. He was a former 5-star. A big reason they got to the Elite Eight, averaged 12 points a game, 5 assists. He's going to Gonzaga, where his brother also played, Andrew. Played at Gonzaga, but they lost Nembhard. Now they've lost Kaluma because he's not going back to Creighton. And then they lost to Trey Alexander, who I guess could come back theoretically. He's going to try the NBA draft. And again, he'll have until May 31st to pull out and I guess go back to Creighton if he wants to do that. They've got Baylor Shireman coming back, but Creighton, a team that went to the Elite Eight, finally had a breakthrough year and was a top 10 team for much of the year. Of course, Nebraska beat them, so that means Nebraska was better than Creighton.
Yep.
But this could fall apart. I mean, it could fall. I mean, you can't say that it's not nothing to lose
Oh.
Kaluma and Nemhart and possibly Alexander.
No, I agree. But Greg McDermott's a hell of a coach. I hate Creighton. I just do. I
just
don't
want them
like
to
them. I
fail.
want them to fail at everything. But I have so much respect because Greg McDermott is just a fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of
basketball
how I
coach.
feel. And also, I have to admit, they're fun to watch play. They play
are.
basketball the way it should be played.
Yeah.
They share the ball. They make shots. It's fun to see the basketball go through the net. But I can't like Creighton. I don't think it's really anything to do with McDermott or the basketball team. It's their fans that annoy me.
I would agree.
So if you're a fan of Creighton, you're annoying me right now.
Not as much as Jake Sorensen.
That's right.
Creighton fans do not annoy anybody on the planet any more than Jake Sorensen.
So you think that they could still be okay just because
I think they will
McDermott.
be. They may not be in.
Kalkbrenner's back, right? Bailey,
I believe so.
Baylor
yeah.
Shireman's, I think, back, and who knows? Trey Alexander could come back. I think. I know he's not graduating. He's only 20 years old. So maybe it's just wishful thinking because this has happened to me before. Oh, look what happened to Creighton. They're going to be terrible, and then they're great.
Yeah, I don't know that they've got to run to the Elite Eight in them this next year, but the Big East is always tough, though. So, I mean, they may be a middle of the pack Big East team, and if you're a middle of the pack Big East team, you're a 6, 7, or 8 seed. So, if that's what ultimately winds up happening up at Creighton, then so be it. I still, with the additions that Fred Hoiberg has added to Nebraska's roster, you and I were talking about this earlier, the ability to adjust your lineup to just about anything you could possibly need at any given moment in a game, whether you need to go big, whether you need to go small, whether you need, you've got to crash the boards, whether you've got to get shooters on the floor.
Maybe that's the question I should be asking you instead of will Creighton suck? Do you feel now much more confident that Nebraska, who beat Creighton at Creighton last year, will beat Creighton again this year?
Yeah, I do. Just because I always think Nebraska's going to beat Creighton, and I think the refs probably screwed us anytime we ever lost. I don't care.
Even when we lost by 40?
I don't know. That was all the refs. But I genuinely, I like what Fred has put together. You and I were talking about this earlier as well with the weapons.
I still think they need a point guard
that Nebraska has. Yeah. Aaron Eulis, he's played in the Big Ten for 3 years. He has started 27 of 32 games last year, but at the end of the day, how many games did he finish? How many games was he on the floor at the end of the game? And, right now on the roster, a guy that came in and ran point for us when Sam Griesel was either in foul trouble or injured, but regardless, a guy that came in and was a major ball handler and part of the end of ball games that were close was Sam Hoiberg. And Sam ain't going anywhere. I mean, he's a guy that his basketball IQ is so high, and he just has some gifts with the ability to shoot and understand, it's almost like he's calculating where a rebound's going to come off.
Right.
Because all of a sudden he goes right when everybody else goes left, and the ball bounces off the rim to the point where it comes off to the right. And his defensive prowess and jumping passing lanes. Does Aaron Eulis have that? Does he have the playmaking ability? He's going to have every opportunity to prove that he does.
Well, I've heard the comment, too, about Eulis that, he doesn't need to score because Nebraska is going to have shooters everywhere, and Keisei Tamanaga and Bryce Williams and Rick Mask and all these guys that could shoot. But still, if they don't have to respect you and your defender can, cheat on another guy, that becomes a problem over time. His numbers weren't terrible at Iowa. I mean, he averaged 6 points a game, but he was like a 32% three-point shooter, 32%.
And it was like
that's not great.
31, but yeah,
that's not great. But it's not, what we saw from some other guys that were shooting in the 20s at times.
Jawan Gary and Emmanuel Bandamo combined to shoot 22% from three last year. So that concerns me. But hopefully Nebraska will be able to spread the floor and play a number. This looks like a lineup that can go big. They can go small. They can shoot it. Now, we've said that before, and they get to Nebraska and a lid just somehow forms on the rim, and Nebraska can't make shots. But I think I'm always excited for Nebraska hoops, but I think I'm more realistically excited. I'm excited for a good reason. Well, the other thing, they're old.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The age factor comes into play here. And I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think Nebraska, we talked about it. What was it? Early February, before the injuries with Gary and Bandama last year, and Creighton had gone on a slide. Everybody's talking about Nebraska is going to be the team from Nebraska, or from the state of Nebraska, in the dance, as Creighton the wheels had fallen off, and then obviously the injuries happened, and there was even a point for a while we were like, I still like Nebraska's team better,
right?
But ultimately Creighton went on the run at the end. I think it's going to be interesting next year between the two schools, though.
My buddy went to the Creighton game last year. My financial advisor, Sam, and he had a fan behind him that was just screaming at him because he was mad that Nebraska was winning the game and that he was wearing red. And they do stand up and applaud whenever Nebraska did really well. He said the guy left the arena even 40 feet away from him as he was still walking away, just screaming at him. He was so angry that Nebraska, and I love that. Doesn't that make you feel great?
Yeah, this is why we don't like Creighton.
This is why we don't like Creighton. Well, there's many reasons. But we all know the definition of a J-skirt. You like Nebraska football, but you hate Nebraska basketball. That's a J-skirt to me. I mean, other people have, I guess, different definitions, but that's the most simplistic one that I can think of.
Or they cheer for Creighton over Nebraska in basketball. Right. They don't necessarily hate Nebraska basketball, but
well, they don't have a football. They do have a soccer team, though. So I guess they do have a football team.
You know what? Way. Nebraska has a baseball team, though, and they're fresh off a sweep.
Yes, they do.
And last time I checked, I heard a rumor that you have Lance Harvell's number.
Yes, and I'm going to call it during the break, and then we'll interview him after the break. Lance Harvell, Nebraska baseball assistant coach. We'll talk a little Husker baseball coming up next.
Old School with DP and J.
You could say that, I don't mess with coach. I was asking, do you want to play pro? 99 out of 100 say yeah.
There you go.
If you think that you're going to go to the NFL and you think every coach you play for is going to be hunky-dory with you, don't even play. Let alone flip it. If you think every coach is going to like you sadly mistaken.
93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get, and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Can I go to the sleepover?
If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Sponsored by DHHS and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Our lives only have so much time. But if you smoke, you have less. Your life could be 10 years shorter. And the time you do have is often filled with health problems. Shortness of breath, asthma, COPD, and cancer. But the minute you quit, your body starts healing.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
Nebraska State Veterans Homes are here to serve veterans, their spouses, surviving spouses, and Gold Star parents. Join your fellow veterans and their families at one of our homes in Bellevue, Kearney, Norfolk, or Scotts Bluff. With a sliding scale to determine your financial contribution, an excellent clinical team, and plenty of fun activities, our homes are the perfect retirement choice. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/homes. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
More of the Sunday Rewind is coming your way next.
60% of the time, it works every time.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Let's go. Okay. We're going to play baseball. That's it.
2-2 to Hallmark. Swings and hits one in the air. Deep left center field. Going back is Christian Franklin. And this one off the batter's eye and gone for a home run. Great stop at second base. The toss out at second. Cam Chick has done it with the bat. Here he does it with the glove.
Neither Jackson Hallmark or Cam Chick are on the team anymore. Nebraska's still got stars, though. Boy, and they were out this weekend as Nebraska sweeps Penn State. It was much needed. Nebraska improves to 29-20-1, and officially, Coach, have clinched an entrance into the Big Ten tournament. Congratulations.
Thanks. We'll see you in Omaha.
That's right. You talked to us all year long about, Nebraska would win the first two games and needing to finish. That had to be gratifying this weekend that you got the sweep.
Yeah, it was. And it was especially gratifying the way that we did it. I think the game Friday, we just kind of overpowered them. And, we had a little bit of everything on Friday. We had what I kind of we call shortening and lengthening the field. We kind of came at you in a lot of different ways. We were splitting gaps, hitting doubles and triples, and popped a couple home runs. And then we laid a few bunts down and set up some big innings that way. And, yesterday though, we kind of won that game in a way that we have not needed to win a game, or hadn't won a game all year, with kind of the short game and really kind of playing a little old school baseball, pitching, defense, and small ball. Bunt, get the leadoff guy on, bunt him over, and drive him in. And we kind of did that a lot today, or not a lot, but had a good mix of that today as well, with a short game, and then the ability to lengthen the field too, and drive the ball, hit some doubles, and hit another couple home runs. And so that kind of dynamic element with the lineup was good to see, especially at this time of year, that we have the ability to do it. And I think that the real, you kind of mentioned the star power of the stars on the team. This weekend, the stars for me were, kind of those guys, the second half of the lineup. I've started referring to those guys as the nasty boys. But Karen, Columbus, Evans, Dylan Carey, Cervantes, those guys just doing whatever it takes to get the job done and coming up big for the team, whether that means, just getting a bunt down, anchoring down, getting, wearing a pitch, getting hit by a pitch to get on base, moving a runner, or driving in, a big run. And those guys did it all for us this weekend.
I think Evans had 6 hits on the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah. Nice weekend.
Nebraska assistant baseball coach Lance Harvell joining us here on the Husker Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket. Coach, you guys finished the conference season home record at your home record is 10-2. You guys, though, are 3-6 on the road. How do you translate? Because you've got the last 3 at Purdue. How do you translate some of the momentum ever since Kyle Perry's talk after the shortened or the end of the prior game on Tuesday night when you guys fell? He gave kind of it sounded like a pretty fiery pep talk. Said we're tired of losing. How do you translate this attitude, this newfound confidence, or whatever's going on the road where you guys have had a couple of struggles?
Yeah, well, I think it's exactly that. I mean, coming from like our team, hearing it, coming from one of their own, coming from a guy that's in the locker room with them, not just that message coming from us, the coaches. So it's not something they haven't heard, obviously, all year, but it's different. We've been kind of waiting for that to come about. This team kind of develop is that turning point in the season where the guys kind of take charge of it, and take it on their own. And that's one thing that we tell them all the time is this is y'all's team. Like, this is us, and we're all in this thing together. And obviously we're your coaches, but like, this is y'all's team. This is going to go as far as you guys want to take it. As soon as the leadership, in the clubhouse kind of goes to that next level, because I mean, there's been a lot said about and kind of, documented just how close this team is and the chemistry of this team. But something we've been waiting, like just kind of as coaches kind of noticing, like waiting for that kind of next level leadership, that accountability to kind of come about. And it did. And you can't force it, but maybe it took that tough, loss in the continuation game on Tuesday to bring about it. And yeah, it's been pretty good. And, the attitude of the team has been great. We know how tough they are because they've been resilient all year, even when things haven't gone their way. And, there's certainly been probably more so than we'd like, obviously, of things that just didn't go our way this year. But they come back every time. They haven't quit working. They've never doubted. They've never questioned each other or themselves. And they just kind of keep, staying in the fight. And then, Perry kind of, they go down the line in the bullpen on Tuesday and we weren't a part of that. So I don't know what was said. We could kind of hear some echoes, and we kind of heard volume down there. So we knew that somebody was getting after it down there. And we all kind of looked at it. We stayed in the dugout and we could hear it. We kind of look around and just kind of nodding our head like, yeah, this is what needed to happen. And we've just kind of been not a different team. I wouldn't say that, but maybe just a more focused team, a little more driven team, and kind of taking that accountability to the next level. We'll certainly do that. And when you do that, if you're going to hold somebody else accountable to something, you're going to make sure that you're checking all the boxes as well. And, Perry kind of was really good this week. Obviously the end of the game today, he was really good, closing it out. And so it's, you're kind of seeing that, that leadership kind of come to fruition a little bit, and you see it translate with our team. And you just look again, going back to how we won some of these games and what we did offensively. There was a high level of accountability, and you can tell that because of the way that we were able to execute the offense.
You mentioned some of the unsung heroes this weekend. We talk a lot about Bryce Matthews and Max Anderson, probably their last year, most likely. Bryce Matthews, 3 for 5 and a home run, got to 20, I believe, yesterday to tie Steve Staniszek. He has 20 home runs, 19 stolen bases. He was on base today where you attempted to call a steal. Instead, you bunted him over.
Well, he got thrown out twice this weekend trying to get him to 20. And, I had some of the Husker faithful back behind me kind of questioning what I was doing, getting thrown out. I'm just like, I have some feel on what, what we're trying to do here, man. I mean, he's trying to do something nobody's done. Obviously we're not going to do it, if it's detrimental to the team and us trying to win the game. But, he had the green light pretty much all weekend, and it just, it didn't work out. I mean, they catcher threw 2 strikes down there and threw them out. And then the game today, it was just, we did what we needed to do and had to do. And he led the game off there with a walk, but we had to we had to run the offense there, and we were down to run. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll get there. I was really hoping he would get to do it, you know, in front of the home crowd. But yeah, pretty special season there for him, and it's not lost on us what he's on the cusp of doing.
Nebraska baseball coach Lance Harvell, the hitting coach as well. And Lance, Tommy mentioned that Bryce Matthews has 20. Max Anderson, by the way, has 19. I don't know if you knew that or not. Gabe Swanson has 16. And there are a host of guys with 7, 6, 5, 4. They add up to 90. That is 3 behind the school record, which was done in 1985 of 93. How much of that is coaching?
0.00%.
Come on.
I have not stood in that batter's box one time this year. I have not. I've not faced a pitcher one time or swung a bat other than a fungo before the game one time. And so, you know, yeah, it's our job. I mean, it's kind of a 3-headed monster on the coaching staff, just from the offensive standpoint between me, Coach Bolt, obviously, and Coach Marcuzzo. And we all kind of have our role. You know, we've kind of worked together and just with our strengths and what we do well as far as coaching the group. And so there's been a lot of time and effort put in, you know, and these guys have gone and you know, they put the sweat equity in that Gordon facility, and they go in there and you know, these guys have hit till their hands bleed, you know, and it's always a good sign when you're running through batting gloves, you know, when guys are wearing out batting gloves or wearing out their bat grip. And you know, that's always a good sign. So these guys have put the work in, and just what people get to see on game day is just you know, the culmination of a lot of hard work, hours and hours and hours put in on that. And I'll take zero credit, you know, for the success of our guys. I'll take the credit. You know, if we get beat or we lose, that, you know, I'll take that one. But what these guys are doing this year that's 100% on them.
So you've never said to Bryce Matthews or Max Anderson or anybody else, Cole Evans, you maybe try to hit a home run. Go hit a home run.
No, actually, I try to coach them the opposite. You know, we try to tell let the home runs will just show up by accident. The home runs come, you know, when you're just trying to hit a 100-mile-an-hour ground ball. That's when you end up, you know, hitting some of these moon shots that they've hit this year. And I love the flight tracker that we've got now, where you can, you know, they post up the numbers for the exit velo and the launch angle and you know, how far it went and all that kind of stuff. It's always fun to see after the guys hit a home run. But no, it's not, you know, that's not really a goal of ours. It's just the stats and the numbers and all that stuff is great. But the big thing that we, you know, try to coach our guys on and teach our guys is all of that stuff is a byproduct. You just got to focus on, you know, trying to get a good pitch, see the ball, and hit it hard. And then what you do from there, you know, whatever happens after that. If it goes 400 feet, great. You know, if it only goes 150, but you hit it, you know, 100 miles an hour and make an infielder jump out of the way, great too. That's all good, you know. So all you can do is just try to hit the ball hard, and after that, who knows? You can do everything right, and you know, somebody can make a diving play, and you don't get rewarded for it. But that's the game. But we've been you know, fortunate enough this year where we've got a lot of really good hitters, and the numbers are kind of showing that. But it's a byproduct, body of work of just trying to, you know, have a good approach at the plate is really what that comes from.
One of the neater things that I think is kind of taking over a lot of different sports. I get it from the standpoint of if you're a coach and a player, you don't necessarily want to give all access to the media all the time. But on occasion, it is kind of cool to see somebody with a headset during a game. And on the ESPN2 broadcast, I believe it was Jace Kaminska was being interviewed. And was this Gabe Swanson's home run today? And like literally he's talking and you hear the crack of the bat and it's like, oh, that's gone. As a fan, I think every pop fly even is probably going to go over the fence, or I'm going to cheer it on, but I never really know. Like there's some well hit balls, and even live, and you're like, that's gone. Oh, maybe you can't quite tell. Right. Is it just you play the game enough and you're around it enough that you know the sound, you know the trajectory, that you just know it's gone that quick?
Yeah, you do if you do it enough. And there's a lot of times when I'm throwing BP, I won't even turn around and watch the ball. I'm watching the 50 feet between me and the hitter and what he's doing and how the ball is coming off the bat. And I can tell, and again, whether it goes out of the ballpark or not, but if the guy puts a good move on the ball, I can tell you, within that 50 feet, just based off of that. And so, yeah, if you do it enough, you're around it enough, like Jace's call today, there's a lot of times similar, there on the field, either me at third or Danny over at first base, as soon as the ball's hit, we start clapping. You kind of just put your head down, start clapping, and maybe turn and give it a look just to see where it ended up. But you kind of just know. And same thing with the hitters too. When they feel that thing. Usually, when you hit a ball flat, just like in golf, it's like you don't even feel it when you hit it pure. So that's how that helps too. But yeah, that was a pretty good call right there. I saw a clip of that on Twitter after the game. Oh, it's gone. I mean, how Midwest is that? Midwest baseball,
Yep.
And you're seeing it, Coach. You're seeing a lot of guys. I know they're doing it a little bit in Major League Baseball, and baseball kind of caters to this, like on-field interviews during the game. I kind of enjoy that. Did you ever see that go into college baseball? Just talk to a guy as he's in the outfield. Would you be okay with that if one of your players, Max Anderson at second base, were mic'd up?
Well, it would have to. That would be a case-by-case basis, and it would really have to be. You would have to trust it. Like I'll tell you, there's people I absolutely would not. I would never mic up Jackson Hallmark. I know that, unless the game was being broadcast on HBO.
You're right.
Paper listen.
Those are. I love when Major League Baseball does that. I love all of the mic'd up moments, and you hear some of the sound effects or just whatever. Like, and there's a bunch of Twitter and Instagram accounts that have that stuff where the guys are mic'd up and they're great, man. That stuff is great to hear. But yeah, Jason's call was awesome.
I'd love to hear you mic'd up for an entire game.
Oh, that would be instant entertainment. What would that be like? Would that be clean? That would be fairly clean, right?
100%, Tom. I mean, come on, man. Like, yeah.
I would pay. I would pay if they could get a pay-per-view on Lance Harvell during the game. I would definitely pay for it.
If I was mic'd up at the Maryland game when they called Josh Caron out at second for leaving early on the tag, and they took a run off the board, or no, I think we still had the run on the board, but we would have had first and third, I think, with 2 outs, but they called him out for leaving early, which he absolutely did not. But that was probably one. It was probably better that I was not mic'd up on that.
By the way, Max Anderson, I believe, scored from second today on a. How many times have you seen that on a sacrifice fly?
I don't know if I've seen many. I mean, I know we've had a runner at third and like a shallow fly ball, and I'll kind of just be in the runner's ear. I remember one time, this was a few years ago, I was waiting to see if an infielder or the center fielder was going to call for the ball, like who was going to catch it. And I saw the center fielder charging in, call for the ball. And I knew, when you're running full speed and you catch that ball at full speed, it's going to take you a second to kind of get your wits about you and gather. It's not going to be a clean transfer and throw. And you've got to completely kind of shut your momentum down. And that's a hard play to make it, to throw a strike, even though it's a shallow fly ball. And I've sent a runner on that, and the guy, he airmailed it, 30 feet over the catcher's head. The only other one I can think of is we had a runner at second, and they tried to pick him off. They did like a jump spin pick at second and threw it away in the center field. And the center fielder, the outfielders were playing deep. And our runner got up, and I sent him from there. But no, never, never on a tag play, especially with one out, because I was yelling at Max. Coach Bolt and I were laughing about this in the dugout because we were both apparently yelling at Max not to tag it. You know, a ball hit in the air with one out and you're at second base, like unless the guy is sitting there waiting on it and you can get to third easily, there's no reason to tag in that situation. So he immediately kind of went back to the bag, and I was yelling at him to get off the bag. And then the guy ends up making a diving play in the gap. Max tags up. You talk about being mic'd up for some of those moments. Yeah. I would like to see if there was video or a picture of Max's face when I was sending him, because I'm pretty sure his expression on his face, he was like, seriously?
What are you doing?
Are you
okay?
No, that was a good play, and it's kind of one of those, you know, you're either playing to win or you're playing for second place, and you know, that right there, it was the reward outweighed the risk, in my opinion, there, and it worked out for us. And we took the lead on that play, and it kind of sparked us, you know, and got the crowd up on their feet, and you know, those are fun. Those are fun plays, you know, to be a part of.
Well, it's Purdue next weekend. I don't know if we'll be talking to you next weekend because you'll probably be on a plane or flying back from West Lafayette, and then it's Omaha. We'll miss you. Well, you'll have to call.
You know, we're playing a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series next weekend, and we'll be back.
That's right.
Early, so
that's right. Okay,
I'll be back in time to go to my 7-year-old soccer game next Sunday, and yeah, we could do this all again.
All right,
you'll have me.
All right, we'll definitely do it. Coach, thanks for the time. It's always fun.
Yeah, guys.
Yep. There you go.
Good luck next week,
Lance
Happy
Harvell.
Mother's Day.
There you
Happy
go.
Mother's Day.
That's right. Happy Mother's Day, Lance Harvell. So, guys, I didn't check the schedule, so he will be available next Sunday. Yeah. So there you go. It's always good to talk to Lance Harvell, the assistant coach. And have you ever seen that? I've never seen a sack fly from second base.
No. I mean, it makes sense. The guy
he caught it in the gap.
Catch and he's in the gap. And
I thought, you know, it's possible he could score, but I didn't think they would try it. And then if Max were mic'd up at that particular point, I'm guessing you would have heard some weird things going on as well. But he said him, and it all worked out. And as he mentioned, Nebraska took the lead on that play. Let's get to break. Come back with more. I do want to talk a little bit NBA playoffs yet to come, though. Next hour. Do you want to do the JoJo thing?
We can do the JoJo thing probably next segment. Wrap up the hour.
Let's do that. The comments from JoJo Doman on Old School, DP and Jay. He spoke to those guys earlier this week and had some interesting comments about the Frost era. So let's do that coming up next.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Old School with DP and J.
You could say that, you know, I don't mess with coach. I was asking, do you want to play pros? 99 out of 100 say yeah.
There you go.
If you think that you're going to go to the NFL and you think every coach you play for is going to be hunky-dory with you, don't even play. Let alone flip it. If you think every coach is going to like you sadly mistaken.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You know, to take it's not over for LeBron.
The Nebraska State Veterans Homes are here to serve veterans, their spouses, surviving spouses, and Gold Star parents. Join your fellow veterans and their families at one of our homes in Bellevue, Kearney, Norfolk, or Scottsbluff. With a sliding scale to determine your financial contribution, an excellent clinical team, and plenty of fun activities, our homes are the perfect retirement choice. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/homes. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school.
Yeah?
No school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens.
Hello.
And we are in show number 1 of year number 2.
That's right. We had our anniversary last week.
Yeah.
I didn't get you anything.
I didn't get you anything either.
Worked out great.
And then you know what I did get you? I got you a finished railing around my deck so you don't fall off.
Oh,
if you
well,
come
that's
over.
nice.
So
you should tell the story about how you almost killed yourself.
I didn't almost. So I've been doing this in stages, and some of the wood is warped because it's AC2 treated, and I, put the 4x4 posts for the railing in concrete and whatever, and some of them got twisted and warped because I did it over the late fall last year, and trying to get it done, and then weather hit and I couldn't finish it. So some of the boards are warped, and I've had to kind of do some adjusting. And I was trying to hold one of the boards that had warped to get a new screw in it, where I was going to put what ultimately is in the middle of the railing, which is cattle fence, so you can see through it and good airflow. And the drill slipped off the screw and kind of went through my hand between my thumb and my forefinger. The drill bit did. So yeah, but it's all good. I slapped some.
You were tough though. I mean, I would
Neosporin on
I
it,
probably
and
wouldn't have shown up for the show today.
I finished the railing on the deck. It was just, it's like, the sad thing is, it's not the first time I've done something like that.
I've got buddies who are carpenters and have sawed off fingers before.
I haven't done that, thankfully.
So that's good. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got nubs. And he's still doing it. But it looks a little weird, but he's okay with it. I do want to talk about the comments from JoJo Doman about the Frost era, and we'll just play them. I think it's he was on Old School with DP and Jay earlier this week, and he had this to say about what went on.
How you talk to your players, is everything. Like, we're like a sponge. We're soaking up everything you're saying. We're believing you, even because we've been trained and conditioned to believe you. And if you're not leading with authenticity and being like 100% genuine in everything you do, you're leading the whole team down this sideways path. And it just felt like, 1, 2, 3 handful of things just like weren't authentic, weren't genuine. And over time, those things stack up. And, you take one step off your path, you can take one step back on, but you take one step off your path and you don't realize you're off your path, you take 100 more steps. Now you're way off the path. And that's what I kind of felt like what happened in Nebraska.
It's interesting that he phrased it that way about taking the wrong step. Like, because Matt Rule, I saw him at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon this week, and he was spectacular. He's always great whenever he speaks. But he said, I can tell where you're going by the steps that you're taking. And I can tell right away if it's good or bad based on the steps that you are taking. And it's funny that JoJo mentions the steps they were taking and getting on the wrong path. And the more steps, once you're on the wrong path and you keep taking steps, you're really off the wrong path. And I think that's a good way of explaining what happened in the Frost era. It's like, it wasn't that they weren't trying. They were just trying in the wrong direction. And the authenticity thing also, like, did you think that was a big problem? The lack of authenticity? Is that what you saw? That was a weird way of explaining it, I thought.
Him saying lack of authenticity or not leading with authenticity and not being genuine. And, if I ever compliment somebody, to me, the best compliment I can give them is that they are incredibly genuine.
Yeah.
I truly feel like if I meet somebody and hang out with them,
it's nice knowing the guy you're talking to
truly genuine.
that's who they are. good or bad.
And then the opposite, obviously, is being disingenuous.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is one of the bigger insults I could say, is that person is very disingenuous. And I got the feeling that he was saying that, various parts of that staff, possibly the entire staff, whatever, but there were things that were not authentic and very disingenuous. And that's not a great success builder, is disingenuity.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word.
It might be now. I think we'll put it
Yeah,
in.
not
They
being
put
genuine is
new
not a
words
good
in
way
it.
to go to win football games.
Well, the biggest thing that I saw is that certainly the coaching staff and the players didn't seem to be on the same page.
There were times. Well, sometimes the coaching staff didn't seem to be on the same page.
No, there were many stories about arguments within the walls of Memorial Stadium, and sometimes screaming matches about the philosophy and what went wrong in a particular game and where they should go. It may not work. I can't guarantee that it's going to work under Matt Rule. But the thing that I've noticed right away is he does seem authentic. Yeah. But the message is consistent. Well, he says sometimes in 100 different ways the same thing.
Yeah.
It's about unity of purpose and, taking the right steps and doing it for each other. And I know that a lot of it sounds a little bit like Roulade. And it definitely is this time of year, but it's consistent. And whatever he says, his coaches echo. How many times did we hear Scott Frost say one thing and another coach say a different thing? And you're like, ooh,
a lot.
That's not good that you have a different message coming from different coaches.
So our buddy Sanderson on the Starter Heyman text line was able to translate what JoJo said. Players can see through your BS.
Right.
That's the bottom line. So,
well, and, we've all heard the story of, Dylan Raiola and that recruitment not taken care of in a proper way. And let's face it, I couldn't do it. The Nebraska job is harder than the hardest. I mean, it's really hard to win at Nebraska.
Yep.
But you have to have a good culture, and that you could see the culture just wasn't good from the very beginning. We all know Scott Frost had to win 20 games in a row just in time. Mike Riley. So it was really bad. And I guess anything that JoJo Domann said was not surprising, but when you do hear it, even when you know it's true, it's like, it's kind of stunning.
Yeah, it really is. Disappointing too. And like disheartening as a Nebraska fan.
We all cheered. We all wanted that to work. I mean,
so bad. Yeah.
You can't ever say that we weren't all behind Scott Frost. We absolutely were. I remember Bo Pelini saying at one time that I was at LSU. I was at Oklahoma. The spotlight at Nebraska is much more intense, much hotter. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that it is intense and that there is no off season here at Nebraska. Like most schools have an off season where the fan base doesn't care. Even big schools like Oklahoma sometimes, or LSU, maybe not to a great extent, but there is no second of off season at Nebraska. And if you can't handle it, and it seemed like Scott Frost couldn't, then maybe that's where the lack of authenticity comes. But like, because you just bury yourself in other things. Like, there's no escape. There's no escape hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the escape hatch isn't necessarily. It goes into a different room, just not necessarily the correct room. Anyway, yeah.
I get it. So I thought it was interesting. We won't spend a ton of time on the comments of JoJo.
Well, and to go along with those comments, though, I want to lead it into possibly maybe we continue this conversation on the top side of the hour, talking about Matt Rule and what he's got going on and building, and his talk of foundation. And I want to battle between foundation and building and development versus quick fix, easy button portal.
I like it.
Because I think there's two distinct avenues that both could be successful. And I think we got to talk about it.
Yeah. How does he balance development with the portal and, the fact that NIL is here? I like that discussion. Let's have it. Coming up. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Old School with DP and J.
You could say that, I don't mess with coach. I was asking, do you want to play pro? 99 out of 100 say yeah.
There you go.
If you think that you're going to go to the NFL and you think every coach you play for is going to be hunky-dory with you, don't even play. Let alone flip it. If you think every coach is going to like you sadly mistaken.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Can I go to the sleepover?
If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Sponsored by DHHS and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Our lives only have so much time. But if you smoke, you have less. Your life could be 10 years shorter. And the time you do have is often filled with health problems. Shortness of breath, asthma, COPD, and cancer. But the minute you quit, your body starts healing.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de the Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
Nebraska State Veterans Homes are here to serve veterans, their spouses, surviving spouses, and Gold Star parents. Join your fellow veterans and their families at one of our homes in Bellevue, Kearney, Norfolk, or Scotts Bluff. With a sliding scale to determine your financial contribution, an excellent clinical team, and plenty of fun activities, our homes are the perfect retirement choice. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/homes. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Now, here are your hosts, Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
It only took a year. This song is really growing on me. It's like a fungus. I really like this song.
I'll play you the unedited version sometime.
Okay. Well, we'll do that. I would enjoy listening. Would I like the unedited version better?
It's same great hook.
Okay.
Great music. So,
well, I talked about going to see Matt Rule. A lot of people did. There were like 700 people there at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon at the Embassy Suites earlier this week. He's such a good speaker, does the PowerPoint presentation, no notes, and he just hums through it. And even when a mistake goes wrong with a slide or something, he just fills naturally. He's just such a great speaker. But he talked a lot about, and it felt like maybe a shot at Deion Sanders. Building on a rock. He showed a picture of a house with rocks around it, and the making of the Empire State Building and how you have to go down and build a foundation to go up. And building on a rock instead of building on sand. And it felt like that, he's mentioned that some programs are building on sand with the quick fix of the transfer portal. And we know that Deion has shoved 71 guys out of the program since he arrived. It's been crazy. He's bringing his own guys in, and a lot of guys like to do that. Matt Rule has not done that. I mean, he had to trim the roster for sure because Nebraska was over 100 to try to get down to 85, and I think they've achieved that. But I think he's also given everybody a fair chance to make the team. And we remember the comments going into spring and coming out of spring, how about he likes the offensive line, and that caught a lot of attention for Husker fans thinking, man, they're terrible. What are you talking about? Why wouldn't you go to the portal and try to fix the offensive line? These guys are bad. Statistically, they were the worst Power 5 offensive line last year. You could make the argument they were bad, but I don't think he's just saying it. He really believes these guys could be good, and I think they did make progress. But it's also a way of fixing the program with the guys you have. Like, I'm going to get this done with the guys here and not go outside the program to the portal. He will go to the portal, but not extensively to say that's how you fix it, because I think he realizes when you do that, sometimes you can destroy a locker room.
Well, exactly. And the two philosophies, the easy button and the project, right, that's going to take you some time, and you may put a drill bit through your hand.
Which you did over the weekend.
But I get it. You can go get 5 stars out of the portal that underachieved or got caught in a numbers game, or their position coach that recruited them left, whatever it is. And they can come in and they can be the flash in the pan and they can help you out. But what happens when you bring that 5-star guy in and the 3 or 4-star that's worked his butt off to get to the point where he's, going to get playing time is still relegated to third team because you keep bringing somebody in front of him? How long does he stay? And if all you're ever going to do, and I always wondered how Bill Snyder did it at K-State, because half of his recruiting class every year was junior college players, but they were there for 2 years for the most part, sometimes 3. And that's a lot different than bringing in, 1-year mercenaries. And that not all the portal guys are going to be 1 year, but I can see how it's going to work in certain situations. But to build a championship program, I don't think there's an easy button. I think you're building a sandcastle, and the tide's going to come in at some time.
And it feels like Nebraska for the last, maybe the Bo Pelini era is an exception to that, but they've tried to hit the easy button a lot of times. And I think I saw a stat that Scott Frost brought in something
67.
like 67 4-star players, and 4% of them made it to the NFL. That's not development.
Yeah, a total of 3 of them did, and it wasn't just the Frost era. It was over the course of the last 9 or 10 years.
Okay.
So it spanned actually 3 coaching staffs. It included like the last year of Pelini, all O'Reilly,
That's
and
stunning.
Scott Frost. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, it literally is. It's almost as unbelievable. Like, it's a stat.
Like, you would almost have to try
hear.
to do that.
Yeah.
Try to fail.
It's a stat
And they
you
weren't
would
trying to
hear and
fail.
go, you're making that up. Just like Nebraska lost 9 games in 2021. And oh, by the way, every one of them was by single digits. You're like, yeah, no, that's not even possible.
Right.
And 8 of them were 1-score games, and they went 0-8. And you're like, no, it's not possible.
And it's not like Matt Rule is skipping over 4 and 5 stars. He's still going to recruit 4 and 5 stars.
Last time I checked, remember the 5 stars I was talking about? Eric Gilbert, MJ Sherman, 5-star guys.
But he also wants to find guys that maybe have great athletic talent and maybe have never played football at a high level. Maybe it's just their senior year, but they happen to run a 10-200. I want that guy. I can teach him to play football. He can run.
Eric Fields comes to mind.
Yeah. I think they've got several guys that are going to be on their roster that can really run. I mean, they're going to get track guys. They're going to develop guys. There's a real big focus on, the grass fields, for example. I think the health of the player is going to be something that Matt Rule really focuses on. I mean, he talks about recovery ad nauseum. I mean, it doesn't bore me, but he talks about it a lot. This new $155-60 million facility is going to be mostly about, as far as football is concerned, player recovery.
Well, and he mentioned, as did not Corey Collier, that's the player, Corey Campbell, the strength coach, mentioned that he was hired in time to have some of the blueprints adjusted to give them better recovery facilities for the players in the brand new complex. So they were able to make some changes to the final plans to help the players recover from practice, recover from games. And, bottom line is the toll that it takes on the body, and then mentally as well. I'm sure they've got a great setup for recovery from a mental standpoint, but it's crazy how much emphasis Coach Rule and that entire staff puts on recovery. The spring game, the Unity Walk, every single player had a gallon of water.
Yeah, they make them carry around these big jugs of water everywhere they go. You got to drink a gallon of water every day. That's hard.
Yeah, I my goal is 100 ounces, and
mine's 90, and I usually do it, but on the weekends I don't. But just 5 days a week to try to do it. I mentioned I saw him at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Did it with no notes. He talked about why he chose Nebraska, and I guess I didn't know this. I thought he chose Nebraska mostly just because of Trev Alberts, but Ted Carter introduced him, the president, and he kept calling him the Admiral. And he mentioned that there were several people in the world of college football that called him, and one Hall of Fame coach from the NFL, Bill Belichick, said, the Admiral has asked you to come to Nebraska. You go to Nebraska. If the Admiral tells you to go to Nebraska, you go to Nebraska. Ted Carter is an impressive dude with an extensive military background, but he also knows football at a very high level, was at Navy the same time that Matt Rule was at Temple.
Yep.
And so they got to know each other. And both really good football minds, but one of the big reasons he came to Nebraska was the Admiral, Ted Carter.
Well, and I love Ted Carter's story. He goes, I'm at Navy, I'm on the sideline, I'm watching pregame warmups, and the Temple guys are going through warmups, tackling each other and hitting like it's a live game. And I immediately went, we're in trouble. And he said they lost a couple of players in the game.
Yes.
And they actually
they were hitting in the pregame.
And he said that loss actually cost them their next game
against Army.
Yeah, just simply because of the physicality.
And how many times did you hear that in the Tom Osborne era?
Oh,
we lost the next 3 games because of playing Nebraska.
Yeah.
We were so beat up physically.
Yeah.
And that was one of the interesting things that Matt Rule said during the luncheon to me, is that winning's different everywhere. It's different. It's going to be different from when I was at Temple, different from when I was at Baylor. And he studied the history of Nebraska football and why Tom Osborne won. He's not going to go to the triple option necessarily, but there are elements that they can take. Hey, Tom Osborne's told him several times, it's really windy here. It's hard to throw 50 passes a game in a 50-mile-an-hour wind. And it sounds crazy, but you get that. I mean, anybody who's played golf in Nebraska knows it's really, really windy all the time. So you run the ball and you develop players. You maybe recruit a fullback. They just got one from Notre Dame.
Yep.
I mean, they're going to have to think outside the box. You're going to see, 3 tight ends sometimes. You're going to see schemes to just try to get matchups. All coaches try to do that. But they're going to do it in a way that they feel like is sustainable. And I think that identity, and we had this conversation earlier, it fits the Big Ten West. And what Wisconsin's doing right now doesn't fit Wisconsin. Barry Alvarez has to be looking at what's going on at Wisconsin right now and thinking, my God, it's really good that I know that they brought in Luke Fickell, who's had a lot of success. Just watching their spring game, I'm not sure they're going to have a lot of success. It's touch football.
So
maybe they'll be great. Maybe they'll be great.
Barry Alvarez plays for Bob Devaney, learns under him, goes to Wisconsin,
takes everything good about Nebraska and moves it to Madison.
Has tons of success, doesn't win any national titles, but still tons of Rose Bowls, tons of success. They continue it on with every coach they hire, whether it was Paul Christ, whether it was
the latest.
What's he went to Arkansas anyway. Bielema.
Yeah, Brett Bielema.
But they do this. It's the same blueprint. It works over and over and over again. And just like Nebraska, all of a sudden they go, you know what I think we need? We need to get away from physical football, and we need to go get a great offensive mind that had some success in a lower level conference in the AAC, just like Nebraska did. And we're going to bring in this high-flying offense.
Were they not paying attention to what happened in Nebraska for the last 5 years, 4 years?
I get it. Some of it was the staff, courtesy of JoJo Doman's comments earlier that we replayed that were on Old School on Wednesday. There was some issues with the staff that, the continuity and genuineness, et cetera, authenticity. And I get all that, but that offense didn't work very well in the Big Ten. You know why? Because there's a lot of very smart coaches in the Big Ten, and most of the coaches have a team that's simply going to punch you in the face over and over again. How do you respond? Well, if you're a team that doesn't play physical football, you're not going to respond well.
I always thought the problem with Wisconsin was not their offense over the last several years. They were really good with that same offense and a dynamic quarterback, Russell Wilson, right? Yeah. Stay with that same offense, power football, and then just get a better quarterback, because they've never tried to get a quarterback, it feels like, since Russell Wilson. And Graham Mertz wasn't they've had several 4-stars who could sling it, but none of them, they were all statues. None of them had any sort of mobility.
Yeah.
Go back, get a Russell Wilson, and run that offense. I guarantee you'll have success.
Well, let me ask you this. If you put Adrian Martinez as the starting quarterback at Wisconsin for 4 years, how much success does he have?
I don't know.
Because I get it. He always would make a play that would cost you the game.
And that was the problem with Adrian. I defended on this station over and over and over Adrian Martinez. I thought that it wasn't always his fault, and it wasn't. Sometimes it was coaching that put him in bad situations. And DP has told me this a million times. DP, of course, a longtime coach who's been around coaching forever. Players do what they're allowed to do. I mean, they have coaches, and they get away with it because they're allowed to get away with it. So I thought, same with Adrian Martinez, who I thought got thrown under the bus many times, or Tommy Armstrong, who got thrown under the bus by Nebraska football fans. It's not always the player. Sometimes it is the coaching. So, and by the way, he did perform pretty well at Kansas State when he went there.
Yeah.
So you've already answered that question a little bit. He went to a different culture, and they won the Big 12.
Well, I'm just talking with an offensive line like Wisconsin had, and his running ability, and most days he was relatively accurate. And the funny thing was Adrian Martinez struggled with some of the simplest throws.
He did,
which always was the most puzzling to me. But
my buddy David Fiala, good friend. By the way, related to Adrian Fiala, they're cousins, a long time. But he'd say, I really like Adrian, but he always does something in every game that guarantees that you won't win.
Yeah.
And it felt like that. And I remember that Illinois game 3 or 4 years ago, where Nebraska had all the momentum. They were going to the locker room. They're going to be up, and he throws a pick six. And it's just almost inexplicable how that stuff keeps happening. But that's on the coaches more than it is the player. If the player keeps doing it and you keep putting him in the game, that's on you.
Well, and I always love the people that argue, well, his backup's not very good. So my question then is, who's responsible for getting a good backup?
Right.
The coach.
Well, and this was the year that I thought we would have a good backup in Casey Thompson. And it looks like they're going to have to develop a quarterback just to be a good backup. Or do you think they go to the portal on that one? Do you think they should go to the portal?
I don't think they go to the portal, and I'm wondering if Logan Smothers comes back. And if Logan Smothers comes back, how they utilize him. I don't know if it would necessarily be a quarterback-only role.
Well, you've only got 3.
I get it. And I can see them.
They'll have walk-on quarterbacks, but who,
Yeah, I can see them needing another quarterback. But like I said, whether it's Logan Smothers coming back or and if you go to the portal, though, what are you going to go get? Because anybody that's still in the portal right now that's quarterback, they're going to want to come in and play. Well, they're going to want to come in and play.
Right.
And you're not going to come in and play unless you're Casey Thompson and compete against Jeff Sims. I mean, you need that caliber of a quarterback. Is there anybody out in the portal that you could get? Or do you go get a guy that is a freshman that after his freshman season has left, who's a guy that you could consider a 22 recruit that is just simply going to be a sophomore coming into your program?
Let me ask you this. If it's not a portal guy, who is the second team quarterback right now?
Based on everything that I heard, including some follow-up to spring ball, I think opening game right now, Chubba Purdy would be the backup.
I think it's Heinrich Harper. I think it's Harper.
It was, and the gist that
something
I got
happened at the end of spring.
Yeah, they said the last handful of practices, Chubba Purdy started getting the offense and understanding it better, and things slowed down for him, and he made a big move.
This might be the era of college football where you're never going to have a backup. That because of NIL, if you have a great starting quarterback, you're going to have a developmental quarterback behind that starting quarterback, because anybody that can be a starter and doesn't think of themselves or doesn't see themselves winning the starting job is just going to go somewhere and get the cash. And it surprises me that Casey ends up at Florida Atlantic, because you're not getting the cash there.
No.
But you are getting stats, and you're getting Tom Herman.
Well, and he wants to play in the NFL, and does this give him a shot? I don't know. I don't know that Casey Thompson's an NFL quarterback. I don't think he's accurate enough. I mean, I'm not saying that anybody...
He's more accurate statistically than Jeff Sims.
Oh, I agree, but a lot of that, especially here last year, was Trey Palmer. I mean, a lot of people, they say that he throws the deep ball well. Well, when you got a guy like Trey Palmer that can run underneath anything you throw,
you can't out-throw him.
Yeah, you can throw the deep ball well. So Nebraska, Xavier
I think
Betts.
Tampa, by the way, got a steal in Trey Palmer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he ran the fastest combine 40 time.
Yep.
The guy's and he was mad that he ran.
I think he ran a 10.31 and he wanted a 10.29 or something.
Well, the 40 time was
40. Sorry,
4.3.
He had like a 4.3 something, and he wanted a 4.29.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, really fast, and I think Nebraska will miss him, and that's probably one of the reasons they're going to I think more of a tight end type of formation, or more tight end formations within the scheme of the Rule offense. Let's get to break. We got to talk to Jim White. We'll talk a little golf.
Heck yeah.
The PGA Championship next weekend. I haven't talked to Jim for a long, long time. And so I want to catch up and see what he's up to. He's a Hall of Famer as far as golf is concerned. The PGA Tour Pro, former PGA Tour Pro, and now with the Fairways of Lincoln. He's the pro there and does a lot of other stuff that we'll talk about coming up next.
If you struggle with joint pain, there's good news. You don't need surgery to get back to full health. South Point Medical and Aesthetics offers breakthrough non-surgical options for treatment of moderate to severe joint pain. Our patients experience little to no downtime from our procedures, and the results are remarkable. They've had 14 years of successful treatments with patients from 35 states because of an effective word-of-mouth traffic. Learn more about how you can get lasting results for joint pain today at southpointmedical.com or call 402-323-8400.
You've driven by GE Landscape Supply countless times, likely without even knowing, at 6701 Cornhusker Highway. Now it's time to stop in. GE Landscape Supply sells to homeowners and contractors with a vast selection of landscaping and construction materials. They sell in bulk to save you money, and you can buy anything from a 5-gallon bucket to a semi-load. And don't forget, they deliver anywhere. Stop by 6701 Cornhusker Highway from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays. Go to GELandscapeSupply.com for more info, or call 402-467-1627.
There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese Beef. The Mercado offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive Certified Piedmontese Beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock, or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school. Yeah? No
school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens here, Mike Melby there. It is Husker Rewind every Sunday from 5 until 7. We don't talk a lot of golf on this show.
We would.
We do around major time, but we don't talk, unless it's a major, we probably don't talk extensively about golf, but it is certainly one of my favorite topics to talk about. And Mike Melby, also a very good golfer. We played a lot of golf together. Neither of us can hold a candle to this particular guy. He's PGA teacher, former pro, Nebraska Hall of Famer, Jim White. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Tom, great. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Doing good from you.
Good. I know that we're playing at Oak Hills this week, the site of the PGA Championship. You have played there probably more than once. I know you played there once in the senior PGA. What are the players up against this week?
Boy, this golf course. Now, when I played it, it was very 2008 in the senior deal, and Jay Haas won. And one cool story about that. I missed the cut. We were watching golf on Saturday, and 17th hole, slightly uphill dogleg right hole, pretty good, pretty long, and he hit it in the left rough. And I told my wife, I said, that's just going to be brutal. There's no way he's going to be able to get that to the green out of that rough, because it was so nasty that week. And so anyway, he hits this shot. He's probably 170 yards, and he maybe hit a 7 or 8 irons, about all he could get on the ball out of that long stuff. And there's two bunkers right in the front of the green. There's about 10, 15 feet between these two bunkers. He lands about 20 yards short of the green, rolls between the two bunkers, goes and into the hole for an eagle 2. And he wins the golf tournament at 7 over par.
Wow.
So that gives you a little idea of how nasty Oak Hills can be. Now, it's also, just getting into May, and Rochester, New York isn't the warmest place in the world in May. So it'll be interesting to see the condition of the golf course, because obviously spring is just getting there. And it'll also be interesting to see how they handle the rough, because when we played, there was no first cut of rough. You went right from fairway to this 5-6 inch stuff, and it was absolutely brutal, and the weather was terrible. So I have no good memories of Oak Hills, but Jay Haas has a good memory of it. He won by I don't know how many shots he won by, but 7 over par wins the golf tournament. So that gives you a little indication of how tough Oak Hill can be. So you combine weather with a pretty difficult golf course, and it's only got 2 par 5s. They're both over 600 yards, and the par 4s, I know one of them's like 230 something. And so the boys they'll be in for a good test of golf. I think the last 2 holes, 17 and 18, are like 475 and 503, and I think there's another par 4 that's over 500. So these 500 yard plus par 4s are just brutal. But these guys all hit it a mile, and that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to hit it long and straight to have a chance to put up a decent score.
Jim White, the pro at Fairways of Lincoln and Nebraska Golf Hall of Famer, joining us here on 93.7 The Ticket on the Husker Rewind. Jim, I want to ask you about Rory McIlroy. He has kind of taken a 90-degree turn some direction, and his game is just off right now. Do you think it is a personal life thing going on? Is it a mental thing? Any take on how Rory's game has just kind of slipped here recently?
I think as we all know, it's kind of the nature of golf. I mean, I always tell people, you're one swing key away from finding it and getting back playing great again. And with Rory's swing, he's got a just a phenomenal golf swing, and it's so much fun to watch. His balance, his speed through impact, it's just fantastic. I think sometimes he gets stuck underneath a little bit. He tends to block some shots. His wedge game hasn't been real sharp. And all those guys, when they're not playing good, they're missing the 5 to 10 foot putts, and when they're winning tournaments, they're making all those. So, Roy's not very far off, and nothing would surprise me if he, gets off to a hot start and hangs in there, because if he hits it long and straight, he's he's going to have a big advantage over the field, which he always does if he's hitting it long. But on a real tough golf course, you hit a bunch of fairways at Oak Hill and hit it about 320. You're going to have a good chance.
Jim White, Nebraska Golf Hall of Famer, 4-time Teacher of the Year, I believe. You mentioned Jay Haas and his swing. It's a very individual swing. That's what I kind of miss about the old days. I mean, Arnold had a swing, and you used to tell me that you could tell four fairways over who it was based on their swing. Now everybody's got a beautiful swing because they all have great teachers. Do you kind of miss that era where everybody kind of had their own manufactured swing?
Yeah, there aren't very many of those guys anymore, and I think that's why you see. Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I kind of miss that. It's kind of fun to watch. The Lee Trevinos, the Ray Floyds, the Arnold Palmers, and those like Chichi Rodriguez. Some of these guys that just had their own natural motion, and they learned how to use it and play with it, and they were fantastic players. Today, yeah, the kids get so much great instruction early, and the use of video and launch monitors. I mean, they're trying to hit certain numbers on the launch monitor with, launch angle and spin rates and, descent angle even. They want to see the ball coming down at 41 degrees, not 38 or 9, but 41, because on these firm, fast greens, they need that much descent angle to hold the greens the way they want. So it's a totally different game. It's very scientific. The nutrition, the weight training, the swing mechanics, just everything about it now is just, these guys are fine-tuned athletes and they can really play. And it's fun to watch. I'm impressed. I love watching these guys just go out and bomb it and hit greens and make long putts. And, it's ridiculous how good they are. So I always tell people, Tom, it's like, you've got your club is a good player, might be a scratch player. Over a 4-day tournament against a tour player, he'd probably lose by 40 shots, if you're playing a tour type golf course, because these guys are like +8 handicaps and they're +7, 8 handicaps on really difficult golf courses. So, it just kind of gives you an idea how fantastic these guys are. My sponsor once told me, we were playing with a guy and I hit a decent shot, and the guy says, geez, that's, great shot. And my sponsor says, well, he ought to hit it good. That's all he does. So, and, it's kind of the same thing with a lot of the guys on the tour. They should be good because that's all they do. But it's all they do, and they do it with, fantastic purpose and with fantastic training and coaching and talent to begin with, obviously.
Jim White, the pro at Fairways of Lincoln, Nebraska Golf Hall of Famer, joining us here on Husker Rewind on the Ticket. I want to ask you about the rival golf league to the PGA Tour, Live Golf. There's 18 golfers from the Live Tour that are going to be in the PGA Championship. Realistically, I think DJ, Brooks, Bryson DeChambeau, Cam Smith are probably the only realistic challengers for a win there. But can we get your thoughts on the PGA versus Live Golf situation? What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, it's kind of ended up being a good deal for the PGA guys.
Thanks.
So they they've designated, was it 12 or 14 tournaments that are $20 million purses. They've upped the FedEx purse. So you can say what you want about the Live, but competition has really helped. Plus, it took DJ and Brooks and Cam and some of these other guys, DeChambeau, off the tour, off the regular tour. So, better odds than them winning, right? So, I think it's like the old saying, if you can criticize me all you want, just spell my name right, and the advertising that has gone for golf in general throughout all the sporting, all the sports, golf's gotten a ton of publicity because of Live. So I don't really, I didn't like it at first. I haven't watched hardly any of it, the Live stuff. So I think it's elevated the PGA Tour and competition's great. And I guarantee you the Live guys would love to go in there and win a major, and the PGA Tour guys don't want them to win. So there'll be some great storylines potentially developed throughout the week.
Jim White, longtime pro, Fairways of Lincoln pro, and of course, a Nebraska Hall of Famer. Who do you like this week, Jim?
I I didn't watch that tournament today. I was out actually playing golf with my wife and son, so we didn't watch it. I don't know. Did Scheffler win today, or I know there were like
four guys tied at 19 under. Did we watch that? Did you get the final? We'll get it to you.
Yeah, we'll figure
there
it
were
out
like
here in
a
a
bunch
second.
of guys tied at 19 under. I was going to go home and not know, and then watch the replay of it.
Okay, well let's keep it a secret then.
Okay.
But Scotty's. I thought his ball striking looked phenomenal this week. It's kind of the same thing we talked about Rory with Scotty's missing a lot of putts that he's been making. So if the putter gets hot, he's just such a great player. He got such a fabulous short game. So Scotty's playing great, and Rahm drives it so beautifully. It's hard to count him out. It'll be interesting to see how Brooks Koepka and Cam Smith come in here if they're playing good, because Brooks obviously played really good at the Masters and had a really good chance to win it, and kind of fell apart the last day. But so there'll be some good storylines. It's always fun to watch any of these major championships, and you see the cream kind of rise to the top, especially in the PGA where the courses are, the best players tend to do really well. The best players tend to do really well in the majors, especially the PGA, because the course setup is usually not quite as, tough as the U.S. Open is. And so, I don't know, I always think sometimes the U.S. Open, the best players don't necessarily win there. Seems like you need more good breaks at the U.S. Open than the PGA. So I think you'll see the great players, be up at the top of the leaderboard. And I like Scheffler, I like Rahm, I like Rory if he gets the wedge game working a little bit. So those are my three best right now.
Did get word on who won. Jason Day, first tournament in 5 years.
Did he?
Jason Day wins. He shot a 62 today for a one-shot victory over Austin Eckroat and Siwoo Kim. So some of the guys at the top, Scheffler fell way back.
Wow.
So he does not win again. I wonder about his confidence going in, because he was playing so well, but he's let a few slip away, Scotty Scheffler.
He really has. He's played some bad last rounds, and you watch these guys and you see Scotty yesterday get really frustrated with the putter. He felt like, I think he thought he was making great strokes. I saw one putt that just hit something about 6 inches in front of the ball and just popped, and he didn't see it. It was a divot. There was a ball mark in there that sometimes those ball marks there's a little depression there. You don't really see it when you're looking to fix anything in your line. And boy, you could tell that thing hit it right off there, and he got pretty frustrated with that. Jason Day's been trending, and it's kind of funny because I was just looking up. He's won the PGA. Jason has, and boy, he's been playing great golf. And boy, when you told me he shoots 62 today, holy cow! Yeah, look out for that guy too. You like a guy that's trending that's also won a major. So,
I was going to say, Jim, I want to throw one out to you. How about a guy that's trending that hasn't won a major? Do you think we could get a first-time major winner?
Let's see. Who would be
two names that come to mind for me are Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay.
Okay, you got two. Yeah, those two are phenomenal players. And Schauffele, I'm always kind of surprised that he hasn't won more, because you watch his routines. He's got such a consistent, great pre-shot routine. He hits so many incredibly solid, accurate shots with every club in the bag. Putt's fabulous. But for some reason, he struggles a little bit at some point during the tournament and struggles to close the deal. So I'd love to see Xander win. I think he's just a fantastic player. And Cantlay, he's another one that's just a machine out there. And when he gets it going, and nothing really bothers him a whole lot. I mean, he can hit some bad shots, but he kind of just hangs in there, just sticks to his process, and plays just tons of great golf. So, I like both those guys. So, love to see Jason Day, Xander, Cantlay, some of those guys. It'd be great to see those guys challenged to win a major for sure. So.
Jim White, Golf Hall of Famer in Nebraska, head pro at Fairways of Lincoln. And you and Greg Johannesson have been doing something. I'll give you a plug on gripping golf clubs. And you can do it in a bit of a different way. and you've been very successful doing it. Explain your process of regripping golf clubs.
Well, it's more of, the whole fitting process that we got a patent for over a decade ago, and Greg's kind of the mastermind behind it. But the basically what we do different than everybody else is the way we were able to even get a patent was we look at kind of the obviously the overall player, but we also look at the leverage of the golf club. Every club has leverage against the player, and that leverage is a function of how long the club is and where the weight's distributed, right? So if you get a club that's got a lot of head weight out on the end, that's going to affect the player a little differently. And that's why when we get somebody, say, somebody that's tall, that needs a longer club, they might not be that strong and their swing might not be in great position. So you put a standard weight head on a longer club, it's going to be really hard for that taller person to handle. So we work on getting the weight of the grip, the shaft, and the head all in balance with that player based on their swing characteristics, how strong they are. And from there, then we're able to, through our algorithms on the back end, we're able to actually match an entire set of golf clubs. I think the one mistake that a lot of people make, they'll buy a set of irons 1 year and then maybe they want a driver the next. So they go in for a fitting with somebody and they'll go through the launch monitor. They'll find this driver that's basically producing the best specs for them, right? And the guy will say, this is the driver for you. And if you turn around and ask the guy, it's like, okay, do these match my irons? You'll probably get a blank stare because the industry doesn't really understand how to do that very well. And that's kind of what we, say we do better than everybody else is we can take that super long, extra light graphite shafted driver and we can match it with your standard length steel shafted 6-iron. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes, but that's how we got our patent is we're able to define that and establish, just how to build that golf club so that every club in your bag feels and reacts the same for you. And that's been why we've been successful with it for a long time.
Jim, we need to have you over for one of our midweek derbies at the country club soon. So
really?
I've been in a slump. So I've been in a slump. I need to get out of it. Just get a golf Hall of Famer to finally win one.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good talking to you. We need to have you on again soon.
Okay, Tommy, great to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well, pal.
There you go.
You
Nebraska.
take care.
Yeah, you betcha. Jim White. Also a great basketball player at Hastings College.
Really?
Oh yeah. He's
just pure athlete.
He's just a pure athlete. And as I've noticed in the golf swing, it helps to be athletic. And that really wasn't the case for years. And then Tiger came along and he's a great athlete. And now you're seeing many more athletes, the Dustin Johnsons, who was a really good basketball player, choose golf. That didn't used to be the case.
Yeah. And another couple of swings where you're talking about like unique swings, Jim Furyk immediately popped to mind, but Calvin Pete, because his left elbow, he couldn't bend his arm because he fell out of a tree when he was like 12 years old.
Swing.
Yeah. And it was this goofy swing. And people are like, this guy can't play because his swing is awful. Oh,
yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Well, Jim White's one of the best. We'll have him on. It's golf season, so we can. We're allowed to have him on.
Exactly. Off the Starter Heyman text line, a couple of people need to go see Jim now, and so he may be getting a couple of calls. And the Illinois game that you were talking about earlier, when Adrian threw the pick six, Sanderson said that you got so irritated that you left Tanner's, and Dave thought you were going to come back, but you didn't. Did he have to walk home?
Well, Dave knows I have a short fuse. I mean, he should just expect that stuff. So I'm a sore loser, as you know.
Yeah.
I will say I've gotten better over the years because now what I do is just turn the channel.
There you go.
Because it's not worth it.
Also off the Starter Heyman text line, relating to a couple of other conversations we were having earlier in the show. Notorious BIB says Creighton fans are bad, but Jayskers are the absolute worst. They're all phony and smug. And he wants to vote for Gabe Swanson for MVP. And also said, absolutely love hearing from Lance Harvell. He's always so insightful and fun to listen to. Can't think of a better interview that you guys have other than with Lance every time he's on. So thanks, Notorious BIB, for chiming in on the Southern
And we
Raymond
tricked
text
him
line.
into being on next week as well. So
yeah,
Lance
exactly.
will be back.
We're going to try to work some magic with the interview with him next week too.
Yeah.
So we're not going to let anything out of the bag yet, but
I don't know. We might have talked about everything, but we'll talk about something.
we'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out. We always do. He's
Yeah.
Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. This is Husker Rewind.
Too many people believe that chronic pain, allergies, or illness are permanent and something you're stuck with. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness has been proving that narrative wrong for 29 years and changing lives for the better in the process. Their team is trained in the newest, most advanced pain-relieving techniques and ways to deal with toxins, allergies, pollution, and emotion that make you ill. Call today for a free consultation at 531-254-5695 or go to novotnynutritionandwellness.com. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness, located at 7th and Superior.
Old School with DP and J.
You could say that, I don't mess with coach. I was asking, do you want to play pro? 99 out of 100 say yeah.
There you go.
If you think that you're going to go to the NFL and you think every coach you play for is going to be hunky-dory with you, don't even play. Let alone flip it. If you think every coach is going to like you sadly mistaken.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you struggle with joint pain, there's good news. You don't need surgery to get back to full health. South Point Medical and Aesthetics offers breakthrough non-surgical options for treatment of moderate to severe joint pain. Our patients experience little to no downtime from our procedures, and the results are remarkable. They've had 14 years of successful treatments with patients from 35 states because of an effective word-of-mouth traffic. Learn more about how you can get lasting results for joint pain today at southpointmedical.com or call 402-323-8400.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is the Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens. Hey, we talked earlier in the show about some numbers that Nebraska had to get to. At one point, I believe they had 103 players coming in or that were already here that were going to be on scholarship. That number, we haven't got all of the information publicly released on who has decided to step aside from football but keep their scholarship and continue their education at UNL. And some others that may have left the program. But we do know that Nebraska got far enough below the 85 scholarship limit to award 2 guys that were walk-ons with scholarships. Those 2 are Nate Borkircher and John Bullock. And in Borkircher's a walk-on, and I remember Mark Whipple last season after the first practice. Mr. Whipple said, I was stunned to learn that he was not a scholarship player.
Right.
You know, he's like, well, where'd you get him? I mean, and they're like, well, he's a walk-on, and Whipple was surprised. So props to John.
And
Bullock.
he'll probably be a starter.
Yeah, I think he'll start game 1.
I mean, he obviously played well in the spring game. I thought it was had like a 48-yard pass early in that game from Jeff Sims.
Although Thomas Fidone may have something to say about
Fidone, but that's what I mean. Fidone is a 4-star, almost a 5-star. Eric Gilbert was a 5-star, and he's probably going to beat both of them out, at least initially. And part of it is because Fidone's been injured. He's been injured pretty much all of his career, and even in the spring, Matt Rule said, I love him. He's so competitive. He wants to play all the time, but we got to hold him back a little bit. I think that, and I think he's shown enough for me. I've been to one practice and watched the spring game. Fidone is going to be a part of this offense, no doubt about it.
He's going to be scary. I still think you're going to see on the same series, Thomas Fidone line up in the backfield. You're going to see him line up either at wingback or as tight end, and you're going to see him as the wideout along the sideline. All on the same drive. He has that kind of athletic ability. He may be able to run a fullback trap. He's got the athletic ability. Get a guy like that, the ball in his hands.
Great tight ends are a matchup nightmare. And then you got Janarian Bonner, who I think is going to be a fullback tight end. It'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. They think it's a strength of the team. Jake Applegate is another guy that's been moved to tight end that could be really good. Gilbert is a little bit of a question mark. So far, I mean, he's had a few drops. Just being honest, I think he's a great athlete, and he'll figure it out. And he's still young in his career. And there's still some concern about whether or not he gets his transfer in.
Yeah, whether they're going to allow it because it'd be the second time he's transferred.
Yeah, so there's time with him. He's a great athlete, but the hands just early on have been at times an issue.
There was a play he made, and he's a big guy too. And they talk about somebody that big moving that well and being that fast. The one reception, or one of the receptions that he did make in the spring game, was a little bit of a comeback route after Jeff Sims had started to scramble, and he had to get 2 feet, and he got 2 feet down, and it was a really tight throw on the sideline, and he made it. I mean, it literally was so easy for him. It was not an easy play, but he made it look so easy, and you're like, oh, I get it. That is why that guy was a 5-star, and you see the potential. So hopefully he gets the transfer.
And then John Bullock was a defensive back who's been moved to linebacker, and Matt Rule thinks he's possibly an NFL player.
Yeah.
What, I mean, if I would have told you before the spring, John Bullock is an NFL player, you would have said, who's John Bullock, right?
Pretty much.
But that's the magic of, sometimes a new coach coming in, he sees something in you that the other coach didn't.
Yeah.
And that happened even with Frost. I mean, Frost found guys as well. I'm not saying that he didn't. But that's nice to know that you got an extra linebacker. If John Bullock can play in the NFL, then maybe you got something good.
Oh, exactly. Cam Jurgens comes to mind. He was a tight end out of Beatrice and ultimately changes to center. And now if Kelsey ever retires, Jason Kelsey ever retires from the
Kelsey's like 800
Eagles,
years old.
He's 804 actually. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Talk a little NBA before we leave.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't if the Celtics hadn't won today. I'd just be grumpy. But I'm extra happy because the Celtics, who I thought that series was over when they lost at home.
Yeah.
The series, they were down 3-2. Philadelphia had a chance to close it out at home and had the lead late. And then they forgot to give the ball to the MVP, Joel Embiid. Didn't touch the ball for 4 minutes. And Jason Tatum in the final quarter had 18 points. Today he had another 50 to finish off the series. And Boston advances 112-88 today. And now they move on, and they will take on Miami.
Does that scare you? Because Miami's the 8th seed. They shouldn't be here.
No, but they're good. And Jimmy Butler always plays well when it matters. I mean, they made the finals, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we know they're good. And now they figured out, hey, we're pretty good. And so they're really scary to me. And then the other one is a big surprise. The Lakers limped into the playoffs as the 7th seed. And now they feel like a team that could win it all.
Yeah, they do. And there's something to be said about 20 years in the league for LeBron and what he's gone through and what he's done. And if I have to make a pick on who I think is going to win the title, I think it's going to be the Nuggets. But I
don't know.
I don't know. There's a big part of me that wants to root for the Lakers here, just because I think it'd be a great story.
Is that the best story? That was going to be my next question.
I think it's
the best story of all of them. Boston winning with Jason Tatum would be a good story, but LeBron at the age of almost 40, what is he, 37, 38?
38, I believe.
That would be an incredible story because they were dead in the water this year. That's probably the best story. I would agree. I hope that story doesn't happen. I think the Nikola, the Jokic story would be great because he was last year's MVP.
Yeah.
The Sixers story would have been great because, they haven't been there. They haven't even been to the conference finals in like 20 plus years.
Yep.
I don't believe. But yeah, you're probably right. The Heat story would be the worst story of not that it would be a terrible story. It would just be the least sexy story. Jimmy Butler wins a championship.
Well, and bottom line, let's face it, for all us old people, a Celtics-Lakers finals, I'm going to watch. I'd love to see that.
I don't know if I can watch. I want to watch, but I'm not sure I would be allowed in my home to watch.
Oh, come on. That would be, I was going to say, Heidi would have to surround you with a bunch of things that are made from Nerf. It's all got to be sponges.
That's right.
And Nerf footballs and basketballs.
Hey, I'm excited about your new show. Should we talk about it?
Yeah,
Should we promote
absolutely.
it a little bit? It's called The Finish Line, and it's coming up in about 5 minutes.
It is. It's Rebecca Pearson and myself. Jumped on a couple of weeks ago. We start talking about racing. We try to cover as much racing and automobile related stuff as we possibly can. We're even going to do a little bit of stuff about probably jet skiing racing and jet boat racing. We don't care. BMX racing. But we'll cover NASCAR, High Limit Series, All-Stars, World of Outlaw Sprints and late models. All the local tracks, we'll talk about them. We're going to talk to a gentleman from the Sports Car Club of America, the Lincoln chapter. Steve, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your last name because I need to talk to you on how to pronounce it. But Steve's going to be on with us in studio tonight to talk about everything that SCCA has going on out at Air Park here in Lincoln. And then also don't forget, after our show at 8 o'clock, fantastic one, Get Your Happy On with Ricky Simmons.
Yeah. Do you have a Get Off My Lawn nomination this week? I
really don't.
I don't either.
It was an okay week. So,
yeah, we're both in a good mood.
I know. It's awesome.
Happy Mother's Day,
Big time.
moms. You deserve a day off. I'm going to leave, and I'll be back next week, Mike.
Okay. I'll be here, too.
Have a great show.
Thank you.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
Did Jaylen Brown make the right or wrong decision in helping off strong